What did Kevin Green say to Clay Matthews? It is time, John Kuhn. It's the 2025 NFL season. This is the Tundra, a podcast on the Green Bay Packers. He's John Kuhn. How many All-Pro teams did you make?
2.
I'm zero-time All-Pro Matt Schneidman. Been covering the Packers for the past 7 years for The Athletic and other outlets. If you've heard us before, we've been doing this podcast in a different form for the past 2 years, so this is not the first time John and I have been working together. But we hopped on the Sinclair train, the Sinclair Podcast Network. We rebranded, we retooled, we reconfigured this whole operation. The Tundra is the name of the show, a podcast about the Green Bay Packers. And what better way, John, to start our first episode than talking about the Packers making one of, I would say, and I don't think this is hyperbole, the biggest trades in NFL history. One of the biggest trades in NFL history in acquiring Micah Parsons. Can you contextualize just how big this is? Because when I was at practice today, as we record this on Monday night, I saw that number 1 in a green jersey, and it still didn't quite feel real.
There are only a few people that when they get traded, you throw a middle name of freaking out there. Micah freaking Parsons. Like, are you kidding me? Right? There's only a few names that when that comes up is, ooh, there's chatter. Ooh, there's buzz. There's only a few people like that in the NFL, right? You got probably on the defensive side, you're talking like TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, right? I mean, very few. Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you start talking basketball, you're going to talk, LeBron James, Steph Curry. I mean, there's very few people that hit this needle the way that Micah Parsons does when he's being traded or when he's being talked about at all. And Matt, when you say one of the greatest trades in NFL history or biggest trades or surprising trades or notable and newsworthy trades, this is it. This is a primo trade. And I would go back and say the biggest one since this was probably Khalil Mack when the Packers were in on that one as well. But this time we got our man, we got our guy, we got the heart and soul of the defense. And man, the vibe and the feel and the energy, not just around us, but in the locker rooms, within the community, within the entire Packer verse is high, is very, very high. And I like this for many different levels, and we can touch on every single one of them.
We'll get into it. Everyone knows the nuts and bolts of the trade. Let's go over it real quickly. The Packers trade Micah Parsons. Packers acquire Micah Parsons. That if they traded him after they acquired him, that would be an even crazier story. But they get Micah Parsons from the Cowboys. They give up a 2026 first-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, and 3-time Pro Bowl nose tackle Kenny Clark. You make that trade every time. When I saw that return and the full thing came out on Twitter, I said, that's it? That's all they had to give up? In the Khalil Mack trade, there were a bunch more picks, but the Bears gave some back to the Raiders. The Raiders gave some back to the Bears. So it wasn't just a player going one way. There were picks flying all over the place. Not here. Jerry Jones has since said he wanted to improve the team's run defense. Kenny Clark, great player. Obviously, probably had the worst season of his career last year. I think he broke his toe. He injured his toe at the very least in that season opener on that field surface in Brazil. Waited until January to get surgery. Now he's fully healthy. The Cowboys got a hell of a player. But anytime you're the other player in a trade with Micah Parsons, it's not going to be great for you. So if we're doing the winners and losers of this trade on paper, at least, who knows what's going to happen from here on out? Packers were the clear winners of this trade. Now, what we know about Micah Parsons right now, he's dealing with a back injury. That's real.
That's scary. Yeah.
That's real. Source told The Athletic's Diana Rossini. However, and I want to get into what he did at practice today, how they're going to use him, the X's and O's, all of that. Micah Parsons said during his introductory news conference last Friday that physically he feels great. I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, this team gave up too much for me. took too big of a risk, made too much change for me to sit on the sideline. He said, I'll be good to go on Sunday against the Lions. He was a limited participant in practice today. Now, this might get Rasheed Walker a smack on the wrist from some people, but in locker room today, since they're not required to put out a official injury report until Wednesday, we had to figure out another way of figuring out what level of participation Micah Parsons had at practice. So I asked Rasheed Walker if he went up against Micah Parsons in any 11-on-11 work. Parsons and Walker obviously being, recruiting classmates at Penn State. And he said he did a couple reps in 11-on-11, but it looked like he was limited. He said he would be more full go on Wednesday and Thursday. So, John, if you're full go at least one day in a week, nevertheless 2 or 3, Micah Parsons is playing on Sunday. I think.
I don't.
Go ahead.
We talked about the Khalil Mack trade, and that was the last big one. If you remember, he missed a lot of training camp as well during that season. The Bears came into Lambeau Field that week, said they were going to limit him. He went out there. I think he played like 15 or 20 snaps in the first half, right? Like he was limited, but he was very impactful. And then they went away from it. Aaron Rodgers came back from his injury that he had in the first half, and Khalil Mack's now sitting on the sideline. They're trying to rest him. They're trying to really limit him. And the Packers came back and won that football game. Listen, I think Micah Parsons, just knowing the dog that he is, and he's got a dog mentality, and a lot of people say it, but not a lot of people are about it. And Micah Parsons is absolutely about it. Central Pennsylvania boy, so he's got that grit in him, and he's going to be one of those guys that he's going to lead by example. And I believe that wholeheartedly without ever meeting the man myself, because I've watched the way that he's played for years. I've watched the passion that he has and what he puts out there on the football field. So if he has 10 plays, if the Packers training staff says, hey, you got to give this guy a light load, what do you talk about here at training staff? Well, we're talking about 15, 20 plays. I would expect 12 of them, 15 of them to be on third down. And I would expect Micah Parsons to be playing with his hair on fire, with all kinds of opportunity to impact this first football game.
Yeah, there are a couple different things to take into account when trying to estimate kind of the workload he'll have. Catching up with the scheme. He's probably not going to be doing all the fancy stuff that he'll do at some point this season, whether it's lining up over the center or, I don't know, is he going to play any middle linebacker like he did in college? Like, there's so many different ways they can use this guy. But I think they might just keep it bread and butter simple as he learns the playbook here. Because as he said last Friday, he doesn't know this scheme. He obviously didn't watch it. He's played the Packers twice in his career, but he's studying the offense. There's his health, his back. We'll see how he feels throughout the week. We didn't talk to Micah today. He'll probably be a one-a-week guy, meaning he'll talk to reporters once a week, like Jordan Love does on Wednesdays. Micah might be Thursdays. And then the other thing is his endurance. I mean, he's a world-class athlete, so I'm not trying to doubt him, but he hasn't practiced yet. He's been staying in shape in other ways, but today was his first practice. He held out for the Cowboys. So there is an element.
So he's fresh. We used to joke about this all the time. If you missed practices, were you rusty or were you fresh? We used to try and say, it's okay. We'll be fresh when we come back. Is Micah Parsons going to be fresh when he comes back? Well, yes, he's going to be very fresh. He's going to be very twitchy. He's going to be very bouncy. But I do agree with you, and I do think that the Packers are going to limit him in some capacity in this football game. It'll be hard for them to tell him no. He's going to want to go out there and play in front of this crowd for the first time in this incredible stadium. He's been there before. He wants to go out and show this team and this community and the entire fan base. You won. You gave up 2 first rounds and one of your all-time favorites in Kenny Clark, but you still won. You won because you got me, and I'm going to show you every reason why. So, yeah, you gotta tone it back as a coaching staff. You probably have to limit him some, but man, you got to also let him loose a little bit.
What we want to do on this podcast is take you inside the locker room, take you places that you can't see on TV or you can't see with your own eyes. I think that's the benefit that you listeners have of having with all due respect, people like myself don't want to speak too highly of ourselves, but John played in the league forever. He was the best at what he did in the NFL. He's still around the team on a regular basis. He's the sideline radio guy for games. I'm in the locker room every day. I've been covering the team every single day for the past 7 years. So we want to take you inside the locker room, and we hope that this show does that and takes you places that you can't go as a regular listener. And watch this transition, John. You know I'm good at transitions. To help us do that, we want to welcome on two fantastic sponsors to this show, who this show would not be possible without.
Smooth.
Nicolay Law Firm and Potawatomi Casino. That's a good two to start out with, John Kuhn.
Oh, yeah, it is. The big boys. The big boys. We got the Micah Parsons as sponsors.
The big boys is right. So to take you inside the locker room, that's what we're literally going to do. Today was the first time we were in the locker room since the trade happened, because the trade happens Thursday evening. They were already scheduled to have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. They do every year in between the last preseason game and the first week of the regular season. So I want to give you a little snippet of what the players were saying about the trade today. First, you have Rasheed Walker, who tweeted on Friday that the Packers were going to win the Super Bowl. Now that's a heat of the moment tweet from a good friend of Micah Parsons, who said he's known Micah since they were 17. They came into Penn State at the same time. They still stay in touch. So I asked Rasheed Walker today about that, thinking, okay, maybe he says, yeah, I was just excited. I think we have a really good team. No. Rasheed Walker said, he didn't even let me finish. He knew what I was talking about when I mentioned his tweet. He said, oh, yeah, for sure. I think it upped our chances by a lot. And then he went on to, and speaking of Super Bowl chances, and then he went on to describe why he thought it upped their chances. How about Edgerrin Cooper? He was asked about what combining his versatility with Micah Parsons' versatility might mean. He said nightmares for the offensive side of the ball. I feel like Half's going to have a pretty fun time with us. Oh, let's go to Nate Hobbs, a corner. Now, John, you know this. The pass rush and the coverage works in tandem. The quicker the pass rush gets home, the easier the job is for the secondary. What does Nate Hobbs think of that? I think Micah is a generational talent to me. He's an amazing player. Really feel like he transformed the defensive end position. Guys before him paved the way, like Von Miller and dudes like that, but he's definitely taken it a step further. You put a guy like Micah Parsons on the other side, and guys lose the rep before the rep starts. John Kuhn, what does a trade like this do for the locker room?
It's this trade, aside from adding the piece, the player, the X and O on the board, it sends a message. It sends a message to your locker room that we are going to shoot every shot that we possibly have to win a championship. Goody talked about it at the beginning of the year, the very beginning of the year. He said the purpose of our team is to win championships, and that is our goal. And anything less than that is coming up short. And doing a trade like this is a message to the locker room. Now, every player in that locker room, Matt, every single one, as you talk about, as fans, as media, people talk about, what about these first round picks and going forward and this salary cap and the money that you might have to, shed elsewhere in order to pay this money? That's irrelevant to the guys in that locker room right now, today, this year. Those players are looking at this season and looking at where they were at the end of training camp. And I'm sure they felt pretty good, because every team feels pretty good at the end of training camp. Some teams are like, oh man, we're going to have to figure something out on the offensive line because, we don't have a starting right tackle. Or some teams might be like, we can't get a pass rush, so we're going to have to really make it up on the back end. But this Packers team has been close. This Packers team did add Arsenal in this offseason, did get what they feel is a wide receiver one, even though he's a rookie and it's going to take some time to get developed. And now you go before the kick of the season, the first kick of the season, and you get a guy like Micah Parsons. Every player in that locker room, I can remember, when I first went to Pittsburgh, you're like, oh my gosh, that's Jerome Bettis. Oh my gosh, that's Hines Ward, right? You come to Green Bay, oh my gosh, that's Brett Favre. When he walks in that locker room, everybody's going to feel the energy that he walks in there with, and they're going to play with that confidence and that energy as the season goes forward. So this isn't just about the X's and O and the player and how much better he makes that defense on the field. It's about the It's about the push that this locker room is going to have and the way that these players are going to respond to that energy.
Here's a quote from Rasheed Walker. Personally, it makes me want to do my part, do my job even better. This was when he was asked about what Goody making a move like this signifies to the locker room. He said, I'm really looking forward to competing in practice, knowing that I'm going to get better, going against more competition. And shoot, I feel like it makes me and the team more hungry for that Super Bowl. So you're absolutely right. It sends a message beyond the X's and O's to the locker room. And I think that's important. Very quickly, before we get into this Packers-Lions matchup, dive a little bit into that. I want to touch on just very briefly the X's and O's of what they can do with Micah Parsons. He can play anywhere. He is an extremely versatile piece. Now, I mean this with all due respect to Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons was versatile in what he can do. Micah Parsons is versatile and he can, actually do it all very well. How do you think they might use Micah Parsons? Forget just this Sunday. We know that's probably going to be very cookie cutter stuff. What are the numerous ways that Jeff Hafley can deploy him as the season goes on, do you think?
Well, I think first and foremost, maybe the two biggest winners of this trade are Lucas Van Ness and Rashawn Gary.
Yep.
Because it's going to make their jobs much easier in the sense of a lot of the attention, a lot of the direction of the offense is going to find, hey, where is number one at? Where is he lining up at? And how do we send as much help in that area as possible? Which means these guys, they might not have to work as many moves in order to get home. They might be able to do more speed to power. They might be able to do more speed moves and just be able to get home because you're going to get one-on-ones. So there, right there, it's just going to make everybody else's job on the defense already easier. What I see happening a lot is when we get to third down, we're going to do a lot of things that requires the offense to go 5-0. We're going to put a man or a helmet across from another man with a helmet on the offensive line, and they're only going to have 5 of them on third down. They're only going to have 5 of those offensive linemen out there, and we're going to have 5 pass rushers, several of them who we consider premier. So we're going to create one-on-one situations. Micah Parsons does not exclusively line up at outside linebacker, rush end, whatever you want to call it. I've seen him mug guards. I've seen him mug centers with a very high success rate. I see him doing a lot of that. I see him doing a lot of that with Edgerrin Cooper to his side as well. This gives Hafley really just an unlimited source of play design that he can come out with at the start of this season. And I think we are going to see a wave of defensive linemen, a wave of a defensive front going after a quarterback in a way that we haven't seen here in Green Bay in quite some time.
And I want to add this very quickly. You remember last year, or I guess it was still this year, but after last season, Matt LaFleur said that when Jeff Hafley first got here, his ideal rush plan, meaning LaFleur's ideal rush plan, was to rush your traditional 4, your 4 defensive linemen, and drop your traditional 7 into coverage. They weren't good enough at that. They couldn't generate pressure that way. Their front 4 was not good enough. So they had to scheme up these exotic pressures and these simulated pressures, what they call replacement fire zones. So you'll have 6 guys up at the line of scrimmage, and then Kingsley and Agberry and Quay Walker will drop into coverage, but then Edgerrin Cooper will blitz. Or those guys will drop into coverage and Xavier McKinney comes off the edge. Basically, in layman's terms, it's something that looks like a blitz because a non-defensive lineman is rushing, but they're still just sending 4. So they had to resort to those to get creative to generate pressure. Now, Matt LaFleur said the other day
let me just interrupt.
Go ahead.
So what you're saying is before they had to fool the offense. They had to trick the offense in order to get home. This trade, this situation, and the lineup they have now and multiple different pass rush varieties that they have, they no longer have to just fool the offense. They can go out there, and I did talk about 5-0, rushing 5, and I think that's going to happen a lot, 3rd and 3 to 3rd and 8. But I think when you get back to 3rd and 10, these guys are going to have to get the ball out of their hands fast because those 4 are going to be able to win their one-on-one battles. So less of what we've seen in the past, like you just said, having to fool the offense, and more so just being able to impose your will on the offense.
Yeah, what I was saying is those exotic pressures, they're not going to wipe them out of the playbook entirely, but they can go to those out of luxury instead of out of necessity. I think is a fair way to put it. All right, let's dive into this Packers-Lions game. The big question around the Detroit Lions this year is how they will fare after losing both of their coordinators to head coaching jobs. Is Dan Campbell just some big dumb doofus who stands there on the sideline and instills a culture? I think the answer is no. I think he's a pretty darn good head coach, and I don't think the Lions are going to sink just because they lost Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. Their offensive coordinator, John Morton, been in the league for ages. He was a senior offensive assistant with the Lions in 2022, so he hasn't been there for a couple of years. That was Dan Campbell's first year, I believe. Past 2 years, he's been the Broncos passing game coordinator under Sean Payton. Their new defensive coordinator, Kelvin Shepard, linebackers coach for the Lions from 22 to 24, so he knows the system. My point is, I don't think there's going to be some precipitous drop-off of the Lions on offense and defense. There's enough familiarity with those coaches, enough continuity with the personnel that they are bringing back, whether it's Jahmyr Gibbs or Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jamison Williams. Frank Ragnow is a big loss. They're a Pro Bowl caliber center who retired. But I don't think the Lions are just going to fall off some cliff. What I want to know, John, and we're going to each give three things the Packers have to do in order to beat the Lions on Sunday. I'll go one, then you go one. We'll switch off. How about that?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Number one for me, win the turnover battle. You can say that for any game, but in the first game these two teams played last season, Packers had 6 drops. That's obviously not a turnover. They had 3 fumbles. Luckily, didn't turn any of those over. But Jordan Love threw that interception right before the half to Kirby Joseph that essentially put the game away with a whole half left. My point is, I know not all of those are turnovers. The self-inflicted wounds cannot happen as much as that. It was raining that game, so there's a little bit of slack there. That's part of the reason why they had 3 botched snaps between Elton Jenkins and Jordan Love. They had 6 drops that game, some costly ones too. The interception right before half was crucial. Packers did not force any turnovers in that game. Second game, and they lost that game by 10, 24-14. Second game they played, the turnover battle was even. Christian Watson lost the fumble that led to 3 Lions points. Keyshawn Nixon had the interception to start the second half. No shocker, that was a 3-point game. So when the Packers lost the turnover battle, they lost by 10. When it was tied, they only lost by 3. And that Christian Watson fumble after a long catch and run led to 3 Lions points. So my first one is win the turnover battle in order to at least give yourself a fighting chance to win the game.
Yeah, mine clearly is up front. You gotta win up front, or you at least have to punch and counter punch with them, because this Lions team has one identity and one identity only, and it's to try and punch you in the mouth. And they do that offensively, they do that defensively, and the Packers, their offensive line doesn't have a lot of continuity right now because they've been moving pieces around all training camp. That's the one thing that I'm worried about going into this football game. Do I think the defensive front for the Lions is going to be, just terrorizing them? No, I didn't say that. But they got to come out, and even if it's not easy early on, they got to continue to punch. They got to continue to run the football with Josh Jacobs, and they got to continue to try and tell the Lions, hey, you beat us up the last 2 years. We're here for a fight now, and we're here for 60 minutes. I think it's about the mindset up front on both the offensive and defensive lines, and they just have to tell. The Lions are going to get theirs. They're a great team. They really are. You talked about it, losing 2 coordinators, but I don't think it's going to be a chasm of a drop-off. I think these guys have learned enough under the other coordinators that they're going to roll in that same direction, but it's going to be one of those, when they play this game, they're going to have to feel you on the other side of the football. I'm saying the physicality up front in the trenches. That's my number one. Above everything else, you have to be in a dogfight and let them know we're going to be in a dogfight coming into Lambeau Field.
Yeah, my second one was just on one side of that, is generate pressure on Jared Goff. Rashawn Gary said today, and I quote, if you let him pass the ball away, make it 7-on-7, he's going to make it a long 60 minutes for us. Micah Parsons obviously helps that, but you cannot let Jared Goff just sit back there and pick you apart. You cannot. How do you make things easier on a secondary that a lot of people have questions about, justified or not? You get home and you get pressure, get Jared Goff off his spot. He's not the most mobile of quarterbacks, but in order to make life easier for Keyshawn Nixon at outside and Javon Bullard, if he has to go up against Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slot, I'm assuming Carrington Valentine might start at the other outside spot if Nate Hobbs can't get back into action. He did not practice today. So they're going to have to get pressure. And it's not just going to have to be Micah, assuming he plays. Because if they double team him and do their best to take him out of plays, it's up to Rashawn Gary. It's up to Lucas Van Ness. And as much as we talk about what the Packers got back in that trade, Micah Parsons, they gave up their best interior defensive lineman. Now, do they move Lucas Van Ness inside? How much more is on the plate of Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, Colby Wooden? Do Warren Brinson and Naz Stackhouse get some ops? They're going to have to generate pressure from the interior too. So whoever it is, out of any of those names I just mentioned, Packers have to get home on Jared Goff. Even if they don't sack him, force him off his spot a little bit so he can't just sit back there and pick you apart. Because if that happens, Packers don't have a chance, I don't think.
My second must is you have to win first down. And I'll say it for this reason. Offensively, they might come in here thinking, again, it's a 4-down situation.
Mm-hmm.
You have to win first down. You have to make it a question for Dan Campbell. They can't be rolling into every 4th down, 4th and 2, 4th and 3, 4th and 1. You have to win first down in order to make it so that, you know, when you get to 4th down, maybe it is 4th and 5, and he has to think about it because it's on their side of the 50-yard line. It's very documented that Dan Campbell told his team last year before coming to Lambeau, we're going for it every single 4th down. I don't think he'll be that reckless to do that 2 years in a row, especially with that information being out there. But you don't know because he's a riverboat gambler. You can't have, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, because they're just going to play for we'll run the football on 3rd and 3, knowing that if we get 2 yards, we'll run the football again on 4th down. I think you have to win third or first down in order to set yourself up.
My third, and this one's pretty mundane, score the first touchdown. Lions and Packers have played 4 games with Jordan Love as the Packers starting quarterback. All 4 times, the scorer of the first touchdown wins the game. Now you might think, of course. But in 2 of those games, the Packers scored first. 2 of those games that they lost, the Packers scored first, but it was just a field goal. If I remember correctly, in the rain last year, they had a long drive to start the game. Chris Brooks dropped kind of a Texas route up the middle that would have been a touchdown most likely, and they settled for a field goal. 3 points, especially at the end of long drives, is not going to cut it against the Detroit Lions. You got to score first, but make it a touchdown. And then, like you said, that'll allow you to lean on the run, lean on your strength, at least from last year, which is Josh Jacobs more. So score the first touchdown is my third key to winning this game for the Packers.
Yeah, my first key was basically let them know they're going to be in a fight. Hit them just as hard as they hit you, right in the mouth, no matter how many times it takes. My second key, win first down. These are going to be easy keys. My third key with this one, this is Matt LaFleur's first home opener. This is against the team that has owned the North the last 2 years. This is against the team that Matt LaFleur is 2-6 against Dan Campbell. Don't let the emotion and the hype overtake you. If they make a big play, move on to the next one. Don't let the excitement overcome you and what you're supposed to be doing on the next play. If they can play within themselves while playing physical and winning first down, those are the 3 keys. Those are my 3 keys. I think this Packers team at home, good enough to win the game. Do those 3 things. I think they get it done.
Very quickly, score prediction for Sunday's game, John.
I'm going to go, things are always a little rusty in the preseason. You don't know if the rust is going to be on the defense, it's going to result in higher scoring, or if the rust is going to be in the offense and have some turnovers. But I think this thing always gets a little wild, wacky with Dan Campbell and this Green Bay Packer team. I'm going to go 31-30 Packers.
Yeah, I think the rustiness is going to show up on the offensive side of the ball, and I think the Packers have a good enough defense, especially with the addition of Micah Parsons, even if it's in a limited capacity to limit that Detroit offense. I'm going 24-20 Green Bay Packers.
Wow, both of us picking the Packers right out the gate.
How about that?
All this hype, all this energy.
Now people are going to call me a homer.
Yeah, they probably will.
That's not our only prediction today. Coming up, we've got a few over-unders, season predictions, bold predictions that you'll be able to look back on and tell us how dumb and stupid we are for getting them wrong. Plus, we got a special guest who will be joining us throughout the season to talk about the Packers. We'll be right back. John, we've been talking about it. I'm excited for this. Our first guest on the Tundra podcast. No, it's not Jordan Love. But Packer fans might care about this one more. It's Annie Agar. She's going to be joining us a bunch this season. And Annie, first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm no Jordan Love. I might throw a few less interceptions, but
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, see, John, that's what we're going to have to get used to. See, you and I have...
I have to roast my own team, otherwise people forget that I'm not biased. So.
That's fair.
I got a question for Annie. Annie, I need to know, where did the obsession with the Green Bay Packers come from for you personally?
Oh, this is actually a really fun story. I'm glad you asked this because so many people have so many concerns about it. So I was born in Detroit. My brother, who I posted about a lot, and maybe you guys have seen, Matt knows about Johnny.
I literally got a DM from him 30 minutes ago in response to an Instagram story of Micah Parsons and Matthew Golden's new numbers. And he said, 0-1, what a great combo.
What a jerk.
Because he's a diehard Detroit Lions fan. That's not bad.
You know what? He's just bitter because Detroit lost today, and he was out there watching the Tigers game. Anyway, I'm back in Michigan, so I'll go roast him later tonight for you. So I was born in Detroit. My family, diehard Detroit sports fans. My dad played for the Tigers for a couple years. And I remember vividly, my best friend lived across the street from me growing up. She had 6 brothers, and she and I was young. I was like 7 or 8 at the time. We'd hang out on the weekends all the time. Like we'd go, you know how kids were on their bikes. We go back and forth all the time. So I was over at her house on the weekends, and I came home one weekend, and I told my dad straight faced, I said, you know, her brothers don't cry over there on Sundays. He was like, yeah, they're
roasted them.
And my brother ruined Sundays for me. Like we got home from church, and he just was so mad all day and would just throw a fit. So I told her that I kind of liked Green Bay. And so they got me a Brett Favre jersey and a cheese head and showed me their Brett Favre shrine. And I was kind of indoctrinated into the cult. So that's how I am where I am. And it's fun. And it made my brother mad. So it was a win-win. So yeah, I'd like to say it started from, because that's when I kind of got into football, you know, so it wasn't from birth, but I'm diehard.
Back in the John Kuhn days. Or was that even before John? John, when did you start playing for the Packers?
That was before me. I started with Green Bay in 2007, and Annie's definitely you got the fandom before then.
96. So how old would I have been? Yeah.
You said you were like 8, so
11.
Yeah. I missed the bad era of like the 90s, but I picked up right where Aaron Rodgers did, so worked out for me.
So what I want to know, Annie, is not just the reaction to the Micah Parsons trade, because we saw what you threw out on social media. Do your expectations for this Packers season change after that trade?
Yeah, I think so. I do our show here in Chicago at CHSN, and they asked me the same thing. It changes in terms of how I think we're going to do in the division, because there were so many question marks within the division with, is JJ going to be good? How are the Bears going to do? How's their O-line going to look? All that stuff. Now I feel a lot more confident, and it solidifies it a lot more within the division, because I mean, we lost 5 NFC North games last year compared to the 1 outside of the division. It's such a scary division. I can't stress that enough. So this convinces me that we have a shot at winning the division, which in turn means we might win a Super Bowl. Not to get ahead of myself here, but I feel a lot more confident. And from what I've gathered on social media, people are feeling the same thing. But it also is a bunch of delusional Packers fans. So my expectations have changed drastically from the Micah Parsons, as it should, right? Like, I feel like that's insane.
No, I absolutely think it does, make them legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Rasheed Walker, who came in the same recruiting class as Micah Parsons at Penn State, obviously the Packers starting left tackle, said today that he stands by what he tweeted on Friday when he said he thought the Packers were going to win the Super Bowl after the Micah Parsons trade. So I absolutely think it should change expectations for this team. I'll use that as a segue into our little prediction segment we have here. And keep in mind when we do this, these will be clipped. We will go back to these later in the season. You will either be classified as a ball knower or a fraud based on how accurate these predictions are.
Good thing Freezing Cold Takes has never retweeted me before. That's
exactly. First one I want to get to, regular season record. Annie, you go first, then John, then I'll go.
Oh, a realistic regular season record? Well, everybody in my comments is saying 9-8, so that's not positive. I'll go 12 wins.
Okay.
That's kind of low.
She laughs. She threw a dart right into the bullseye on that thing, Matt, because I don't know about the hate that you're getting on Twitter and everybody in your mentions and everything like that, but I feel like the vibes are much higher than that. I feel like Matt LaFleur and this offense has some stuff to prove coming out of training camp, and the defense is as built as it could possibly be. I had this team, and we did a couple weeks back. We picked with the beat, and I remember picking 10 wins at that point in time. I think Micah Parsons takes this thing all the way to 12 wins. I think the momentum of this gets within the locker room, and I think everybody is going to be riding that high of Micah Parsons, and they're going to take this a little step further. And I like the roster before, Matt, but I like it much better with Micah. I went from 10 to 12. I'm 12 wins for the Packers.
I feel so much better.
Let me clarify. When you say we did predictions with the beat, are you talking about when you walked into mine and Rob's office after the last preseason game?
Aren't you guys the beat?
Well, yeah, but we put our predictions up on a piece of paper that's still nailed to the wall. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
We might have to
pre-Parsons prediction.
Right. I think we reserve the right to change that and take that piece of paper down, because I think I said 11-6 before the trade. I'm going 12-5 after the trade. Now, Micah Parsons might account for more than one win, but I think, a stronger pass rush in crunch time could lead to 13 wins, maybe more. But I'm not ready to sit here and say they're going to win 13 games just because of how hard their schedule is. I mean, Vikings are still a good team. Lions are still a good team. They got to play those guys 4 times. And then they got the Ravens, the Eagles, the Bengals, the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Carolina Panthers.
Too, right?
Yeah,
it's a crazy schedule. This is as tough as a schedule as you could throw out there with the NFC East and the NFC North, or the AFC North. I think the crossover games are tough. Obviously, they got to go out to Denver for that extra AFC game. So this schedule is not an easy schedule. I think that's why we all reserved 12 wins, and why we were all probably a little bit more passive on this thing before the trade of Micah Parsons.
All right, going off that, what is your season finish? And what I mean by that is how far they go in the playoffs. Where does the Packers season end, whether it's in a Super Bowl parade, in the divisional round, whether it's not even making the playoffs, we'll go in the same order.
I feel like if I don't, I got to set my team up for success.
Okay.
Realistically, I would say Jordan Love postseason performance last year was not awe-inspiring. I'm going to say Super Bowl parade. I'll give my team the hope it deserves. Micah Parsons will be hammered off a couple beers on that Super Bowl float. It'll be amazing. It's going to be beautiful.
I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see that. And honestly, I think if the Packers stay healthy, like many teams in the National Football League, their chances are much better for that. Jordan Love's injury right now to his thumb has me a little concerned. He's missed a boatload of time. I think that I think he's going to have to really catch up with his wide receivers with some rapport, because not only has he missed time, but his wide receivers missed time. His wide receiver number 1 is going to be a rookie. So how is that going to play out when playoff time comes along? I'll say, and this is merely because you can't predict injuries. I'm going to say the Packers are going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm going to say they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
Uh-oh.
And whether they win or not, I mean, you got to play good in one game. But if this Packer team stays healthy, man, I really see a big run out of them.
John, I just want to
close it out.
This isn't going to, the fans are not going to like this. I just want to clarify first before I give mine. Annie said Super Bowl parade. John, when you guys won the Super Bowl, you did not have a parade, correct? It was just like a celebration inside the stadium.
We returned to Titletown. It's just as good as a parade.
You have an escort from Austin Straubel International Airport?
We did, and we did have fans line the streets, so that was pretty cool. So we had an impromptu parade when we got back, even though we didn't have the proper equipment to have a parade. I mean, to have a parade, you need to have beers, you need to have trucks with beds, you need to have Corvettes with convertibles and people sitting on the headrests and things. I mean, we did not have a parade per se. Yes, there were people there to greet us there at the airport, more than happy for the, showing up out of the Packer fans. But a real parade, Annie said it. I mean, you got to yug a couple beers. You got to throw some stuff out to the fans. They're maybe not throw a Super Bowl trophy, but we've seen that happen before. I mean, a real Super Bowl parade gets turned.
How many adult beverages did you have on that day?
What day? The return to Titletown?
Yeah.
Well, we did it in the stadium, Matt. We did it
I
in
know,
the
but like,
stadium.
do you guys like go in the locker room and shotgun a couple before you go out there?
I cannot remember if we did. I promise you, I cannot remember if we did. I know we definitely consumed quite a bit that night after
Okay.
return to Titletown. I mean, we had a blast. Don't worry, we had a blast because we knew we were going into the lockout year. So we knew that night was going to be the last time we saw each other until the CBA got decided, and it did not get decided till August. So there were some guys we only saw one time between then and the August 6th or whenever that CBA got decided, and that was our ring ceremony, which everybody was kind of weirded out. Well, we don't know the rules. Are we allowed to hang out together? We're not allowed to talk to coaches. That was a crazy time.
All right. So I'm going to go Packers losing the NFC Championship game. I'm letting them get there. I'm just not ready to put them above the Philadelphia Eagles yet. If gun to my head, you say power rank the NFC, I think I would put the Packers and the Lions on even footing. I think obviously before the Micah Parsons trade, the Packers were a category below, but I think right now Packers are right below the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'll say 12-5 NFC Championship game loss to the Eagles. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Very understandable. Very
Okay.
understandable. Hey, and this is the deal. So that we know, I mean, the Packers could be kind of teetering the line and just sneak into the playoffs and get hot and go to the Super Bowl.
Like you guys did.
We saw that with the Commanders last year until they rolled into Philly. I think, man, I'm telling you, that regular season, not having to go into a Philadelphia or into a Santa Clara or something like that, that's a big deal. So when Annie says the division, it's all about the division this year.
All right. One bold prediction for the season. And I'm going to start this one because John touched on who it is about, even though he doesn't know what mine is about, because you said you're going to have a rookie as your number one wide receiver. My bold prediction is that Matthew Golden will win Offensive Rookie of the Year across the entire NFL. I just think there are going to be too many opportunities for him in the passing game for voters to pass him up and look him over as, oh, he's just a productive rookie wide receiver 3 on the Packers. I don't think it's hyperbole to say this, and John, you were at every training camp practice with me. I think he is already the most talented wide receiver on this team, and especially with how, I don't know, banged up some of these other receivers are. I don't know if they're going to be limited to start the season. Jaden Reed and Wicks are probably going to play. I don't know if they'll be full go. But Matthew Golden is going to be a guy they rely on from day one, and I think he's got the skill to become that feature guy and put up the numbers it takes to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Annie, you see what he did there? You see what he let us each go first on the last 2 questions because he could kind of model it after that. But now on the bold prediction, he goes first. Yeah. He goes first, and he takes the easiest one that there is with Golden with an Offensive Rookie of the Year because
I wrote down all my things on a piece of paper before.
Annie, I'll let you go.
All this was
you
predetermined.
Your bold prediction.
Well, I could go a couple. A funny one is that I won't be tweeting "Fire Jeff Hafley" the way I did Joe Barry because he probably won't be dropping Micah Parsons in coverage. So
He will drop a couple times. Hey, but be careful.
You know what?
I promise you, he will drop a couple times.
He won't be Preston Smith.
In some different fire
He'll be
zones.
faster than like Preston Smith. Well, one that I would say was, and I think we're going to touch on it with our over-unders here, but Josh Jacobs, I think, is going to have, this is the year of Josh Jacobs, and not just because I drafted him in fantasy, obviously, but I think he far surpasses 1,300 yards. He had 94 yards negated last year because of penalties. We know our penalties are terrible. The discipline is a little rough. Hopefully that'll be better this year. So I think he's going to get a ton of touches and a ton of yards, and I feel like this is just Josh Jacobs' year. I don't know if that's a really like bold take. But I would
say this is bold prediction, so we go bold. Okay, gotcha.
John, do we have access to stats like that? 94 yards negated due to penalties? We need to get our stats department on that.
If I'm wrong, I'll admit it right here. But I read that somewhere.
I don't think you are.
Everything on social media is true, John.
I believe every word Annie says. Annie was my source breaking the Micah Parsons deal. She was the one who actually told me.
So
it definitely feels like it's going to happen. That's not out of the realm of possibility. Annie, there you go. Bam. Now I'm sending it. No, here's a bold prediction for you, Matt. Here's a bold one.
All right. Is it actually bold, or is this is a Josh Jacobs
is going to
year?
win Defensive Player of the Year.
He's the
Parsons
odds-on favorite. That's not a bold
is going to win
prediction.
Defensive Player of the Year.
Matthew Golden is 22-1 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Micah Parsons is the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year.
That's because it's going to happen.
You got on me for offering. You got on me for offering a no duh obvious prediction, and I heard Josh Jacobs is going to have a good year, and Micah Parsons is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. You owe me an apology.
Over
Well,
TJ
you know
Watt.
what? Maybe don't go first next time. Let
All
us
right.
have a bolder.
Over, yeah, I know who he would win it over. I'm just saying he's the odds-on favorite to win it right now.
Oh, I was not aware of the odds, but hey, everybody else is as smart as I am.
They'll change too
Okay.
by the time. It's a bold take. I liked your take, John.
How about Annie upgrades hers to Josh Jacobs will be a first-team All-Pro?
Ooh,
Put some conviction behind it.
okay, sure. Annie will win fantasy this year. That's a bold take.
That's bold.
That's bold. That's a wrong take, but bold.
All right, let's get into some over-unders. We have 4. We have Jordan Love over-under 10.5 interceptions. He's had 11 in each of his first 2 seasons. We have Micah Parsons, 13.5 sacks. In his 4 years, he's had 13, 13.5, 14, and 12 last year when he missed 4 games. Xavier McKinney, over-under 6.5 interceptions. He had 8 last year. And Josh Jacobs, over-under 1,250.5 rushing yards. He had 1,329 last year. And as you can tell, these over-unders were set by a sports gambler myself. That's why these half numbers are in them. So let's start with...
Those are great lines, by the way.
Thank you.
Great. Well done.
Jordan Love, over-under 10.5 interceptions. Annie, you go first.
When is Toyotathon this year? I'm going to say...
Same time it is every year, I think.
Well, I've talked to the Toyota people to elongate it, so we'll see if they...
Okay.
And then I go and buy a Chevy. Not my greatest decision. Anyway, I'm going to go under because of the last 7 games when we didn't throw an interception at all. What if that happens again in the toughest stretch, but he gets off to a hotter start? That's what I'm banking on. So I'm going to go under interceptions this year. Plus, if he's fully healthy, and with our the whole switch up with like Matthew Golden, I'm not going to let that man throw interceptions. I'm going to go under. I feel very strongly about that.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I'm going to go over. To me, this is an easy over-under. I think he's going to go over the interceptions because, listen, this guy, he's got, I mean, he will throw it into a tight spot. Now, he doesn't give a rip. He really doesn't. He has a little bit more Brett Favre in him than Aaron Rodgers in that aspect. And, he wants to get the ball out of his hands. And he had 11, like you said, Matt, last year. I think 10.5, playing all 17 games. Yeah, I think that's an easy over. Doesn't mean he's not going to have a great year. Just means he's going to take some chances. Some of these balls are going to get tipped in the air. Some of these balls are going to get intercepted. Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to be over 10.5, but he's still going to have a fantastic season.
Whew. I have not decided what I'm going to pick yet, but I'm going to go under. I think what Annie said about him being healthy, I think he's going to be a little bit more cognizant of some of the risks he was taking. Second half of last season, he went on that stretch of clean play and said he just has to pick his spots more. They don't want to pull the reins back on him and have him be less aggressive because, as Matt LaFleur says, it's that aggressiveness that results in more good plays than bad plays. But I think he's going to pick his spots a little bit more, and I still think they run the ball a bunch. So, and I know Matthew Golden has been on the jugs machine. He can catch pretty much everything. I think he had maybe 1-2 drops in camp, and we know the other guys had a bunch of drop passes last year. So I'm going to go under 10.5 interceptions, even if it's 10. All right. Micah Parsons, 13.5 sacks, over or under?
This was the
That's
really
over.
good line. I'm going to go over.
That's over. That's if he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year, he's going to be over, and he's going to be over by a lot. I think Micah Parsons creeps up around 20, right? I think Trey Hendrickson led it last year with 18, 17, something like that.
17.
I think Micah Parsons is going to be up there around 18, 19. He's going to be flirting with that 20 number, and big things for him this year. Back injury, one thing to be concerned about. We'll talk about that more, but yeah, Micah Parsons, especially if he's healthy, he's going to be well over 13 and a half sacks.
I'll go over, but I don't think it's going to be as over as John thinks. I think it's going to be a result of, look, if teams have to pick one guy to double team or devote more attention to, they're going to pick Micah Parsons over Rashawn Gary. But they can't just devote all the attention to him. Rashawn Gary is still a pretty darn good edge rusher. He might just not be an elite number one, but he's an elite number two. So I think that's going to free up some stuff for Micah, even as ridiculous as that seems. But I'm going to go over, but maybe 15, not 18 or 19. But I guess John has to do that because you did pick him to be the best defensive player of the year.
Well, I don't want to get too football nerdy here with you X's and O's, but can you imagine
Please do.
Can you imagine a lineup that has Lucas Van Ness on one side, Rashawn Gary on another, and Micah Parsons, as a stand-up mug rusher in the middle? I see that happening all the time. I see that happening a lot when they get to third down, and he's almost unblockable when they can get a 5-0, meaning a lineman for every rusher. And when you put him on the interior and you get a 5-0, now he's on a center who might have his head down looking for the silent count while they're at Lambeau Field. I just think there's so many different ways that they're going to get him involved, loops, stunts, twists, with all these other. Can you imagine him and Edgerrin Cooper doing a stunt together? I mean, this thing's going to be fantastic.
I love Edgerrin Cooper. I'm so
Quote
excited.
from Edgerrin Cooper today when he was asked about combining Micah Parsons' versatility with his. He said, "Nightmares for the offensive side of the ball. I feel like Half's going to have a pretty fun time with us."
And he couldn't stop smiling. He looked pretty happy in the interview, Matt.
Yeah, he was very happy. All right, Xavier McKinney, over under 6.5 interceptions.
Way over.
Way over.
Interceptions this year, yeah.
72 interceptions?
No, I don't know about that.
So how is Micah Parsons going to win Defensive Player of the Year if Xavier McKinney has 72 interceptions?
I mean, if it comes down to those two, I'm fine with that. No, I think having Michael open up let's take a little weight off of him in the secondary, and I just love Xavier McKinney. I think he'll have another great year. I feel very confident. This might be a vibes pick, but I'm saying way over 6. 6.5 seemed low, Matt. The line seemed a little low there.
Okay, fair enough. I'll explain it when it's my turn. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, that thing started off so hot last year. How many games in a row did we start with an Xavier?
For a while, it was like Jordan Love and Xavier McKinney leading in interceptions. It's pretty cool.
I mean, I think this is a hard number to go over. I could see 6 very easily. I could see 5 very easily. Heck, I could see 8 or 9. But I just think that heater that he was on at the beginning of the season, it took teams a little bit to realize, man, if we throw the ball up with this guy in the middle of the field, he's a true center fielder. He'll come down with it every single time. So they started targeting and maneuvering around that. I think he'll be the guy that they keep their eye on more times than not. I think it's going to be hard for him to stay on a heater, and I think we're going to get to the quarterback more, so I don't know if he's going to have as many opportunities.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking with this. I'm going to go under on the 6.5. He had 5 in the first 5 games last year, and then 1 in his next 5 games, and then 1 in his next 8 games after that. No, that's not right. I'm not reading this right, but you get the point, is that teams stopped throwing at him. And there was a long stretch the longest stretch he went on, as I look at Football Reference here, was 5 games without one. And Jeff Hafley's whole thing last year was just because he's not making the splash plays doesn't mean he's not impacting the defense. Teams just aren't throwing at him. So at the beginning of last season, Xavier McKinney wasn't like a known commodity. Teams were still throwing at him. Once they realized we should stop doing this, he didn't get as many interceptions. So that's just as good for a defense because it takes away a deep half of the field if teams aren't going to look your way. That's arguably better than, throwing a 50-50 ball up and hoping he comes down with it. I do think that a pass rush with Parsons and Rashawn Gary will provide more opportunities for the DBs because quarterbacks are going to have to get the ball out quicker and be more off platform with their throws if there's pressure. So I think they're going to get a bunch of picks off that, but I'm going to go Xavier McKinney under 6.5. All right, last one, Annie, before we let you go. I think we know what you're picking with this already. Yeah. Josh Jacobs over under 1,250.5 rushing yards. Last year he had 1,329.
I'm hoping they'll utilize him as much or like work him as much as we did last year, but I already said over. I think he'll go over.
I think he's going to go over also, Matt. I do. I know they're going to try and get Marshawn Lloyd in there. if he gets healthy. When he gets healthy, they want to be able to use him a little bit in the splash play variety for the running back. But Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks, they're steady Eddies. They'll reserve him. But Josh Jacobs is the 30, rush a game bell cow. He's the guy that you're going to give him the rock. They're going to work it with him. I think what they had with him in the offensive line at the beginning of last year with Malik Willis and then continued when Jordan Love came back, he's going to be the guy they lean on more than anything this year in that offense. And quite frankly, with the uncertainty of the offensive line during training camp, I could see them running the football a heck of a lot to start this season.
Yeah, I'm going to go over 2. When I was setting this line, I was thinking under just because I think a healthy Jordan Love will probably throw the ball more. But as we all know, the Packers ran the ball at a higher percentage last year than they did in any of Matt LaFleur's first 5 seasons as head coach. As I look at this number on my notepad that I wrote down, I think I set it too low. So I'm going to go over 1250.5. I think Josh Jacobs has said that he feels great. He can handle the workload. I think they're going to feed him the rock again, even if they have Matthew Golden and a deep wide receiver crew. Feel good about those?
Love them.
Guys, Xavier McKinney will probably get 6 interceptions in the Giants game alone. Especially if Jameis is throwing the ball.
Revenge game for McKinney.
I know, I was looking
Revenge
up their
game for
schedule this week.
Parsons.
They just have trigger-happy quarterbacks that they're playing that could throw a lot of picks.
I bet Jackson Dart's starting by then.
Yeah?
Yeah, that game's in mid-November. Yeah, Jackson Dart's definitely starting by then.
Man, I can't wait for this season.
I think so.
Micah Parsons going to eat in that game.
Oh, he's going to feast.
Yeah, he probably will. All right. Well, Annie, we thank you so much for joining us. Really look forward to having you on. I don't know how often it's going to be, but hopefully it's pretty often this year. Lighten it up between me and John so we don't argue too much on the show.
I love it. I can already feel Team Annie all the way. This is going to be a great season.
You're taking sides already. Okay, fair enough.
I love it. Oh, I'm very excited. It's going to be a great season.
Thanks again to Annie Agar for coming on. John, we look forward to having her throughout the season.
Yeah, that was fun. I'll tell you, I really enjoy the team up that we can put
team
on
her
you.
over me?
Listen, no, she's team us. It's a team.
Okay.
Right? It's the Kuhn and Agar against Schneidman team, and that was fun. I enjoyed that a lot.
I don't like that. We've been working together for 2 years now, more than that. And it took one appearance for you to get off my team?
No, I just think, you and I are going to butt heads on a lot of things, and Annie's going to be the decision maker. And as long as she keeps, slamming that gavel down in favor of defending Kuhn, and I'm all about it.
Fair enough. I mean, you two are the fans. I am the voice of reason. But regardless of whether we agree or disagree, can we just be thankful that we have real football to talk about?
For
the past month plus,
this is the best.
We've been standing out in 90-degree heat on that rubber track at Ray Nitschke Field, watching I don't want to say useless football, but stuff we know doesn't really matter come the big time. Now, it matters. Packers-Lions, Sunday, September 7th, 3:25 p.m. Central Time kickoff, Lambeau Field. Very quickly, John, I want to get your thought on this. This is my 7th year covering the team. I don't remember as much hype around a regular season game as this one that I've covered.
A ton. Last year's regular season hype going in and playing Philadelphia and Brazil, that was an awesome opener. Granted, it was overseas, right? So it was different. And this one is Matt LaFleur's first home opener. This is going to have energy. This is going to have electricity. It's the Lions. They've owned the division. And we got Micah Parsons. All right, there's a lot of different storylines going into this thing. And boy, to be at that 3:30 slot, I don't know if there's anything better than Lambeau 3:30 on a Sunday. It's going to be great.
I can't wait. What I want to know is, are they going to call the offense or defense during pregame introductions?
What would you do?
I would do the defense without a doubt. Normally it's the offense that goes first, but you got to have Micah Parsons coming out as the last one to get the Lambeau Field crowd fired up.
I think you do. I mean, you got a game 4 days later, so just tell Jordan, hey, you're just going to wait 4 days before the crowd does the same thing for you, and it'll be just as big because it'll be Thursday night game. But boy, when that team takes the field here on Sunday, it is going to blow up. I cannot wait. It's going to be incredible. We'll be there.
You'll be on the sideline. I'll be in the press box. Love covering big games, a big game environment. That's what it'll be. Until then, we thank you so much for listening to the first episode. This has been the Tundra.